In 1934, a clay tablet came out of the sand in southern Iraq and ended up in a basement at Yale, filed under the most boring label imaginable. Moral advice for young scribes. For 60 years, nobody looked twice at it. Then, one researcher read it properly and realized what it actually was. A list. 7 lines, pressed into wet clay 4,000 years ago by someone the Sumerians called Enki, each one naming a power humans were never meant to take. And the 7th line isn't ancient history. It's happening right now. The tablet has a catalog number, YBC 7842, and for the sake of the story, let us tell it the way the believers tell it. Because in the old Sumerian texts, Enki wasn't just a god. He was the engineer of the gods, the one who designed humans and kept the blueprints. The Sumerians believed reality ran on something called the ME, not ideas, not morals, actual operating powers. The power to rule, the power to make fire, the power to create life. There were over 100 of them, and every single one belonged to the gods, never to us. So when this tablet lists 7 of those powers, each one paired with a category of human being, it isn't teaching anyone how to live. It is a checklist of the lines we would eventually cross. And next to every entry sit the same 2 symbols. Translated, they mean roughly the same thing each time. Not to be preserved. The first line is the power to make life. In the myths, only Enki and the mother goddess Ninmah were allowed to do it. They took clay, mixed it with something living, and shaped the first humans by hand, like a workforce built to order. The texts even describe the failures, early prototypes that could not feed themselves, could not survive, could not reproduce. Building life was a sacred, restricted skill, and any human who tried to copy it was crossing the first line. For 4,000 years, that line held. Then, in 2018, a scientist in China announced that twins had been born with their DNA rewritten before birth, edited in a lab with a tool called CRISPR. The first humans in history to be designed instead of born. The first line was not a warning about the past. It was a prediction. And we have already crossed it. The second line names a weapon. In the texts, it's the fire of the council, a power so dangerous the gods agreed it could never be handed to humans. The old Hindu epics describe almost the exact same thing, a weapon that turned whole battlefields to ash, where the land stayed barren for generations, and children were born deformed long after the smoke cleared. Burns with no fire, sickness with no wound, soil that just stopped growing. Sound like anything? Because between 1945 and the end of that century, we set off more than 2,000 nuclear bombs. Today, there are over 12,000 warheads sitting in silos, and most of them are pointed at cities full of people. The second line said this fire was never meant for human hands. We didn't just take it. We built enough to end ourselves several times over. The third line is stranger. It's about the depths. In Sumerian, the word is kur, and it means the sealed world beneath the ground. The tablet describes it as something locked on purpose. Whatever is down there was put under pressure, sealed off, and left alone. And humans who dig past that seal are breaking a boundary that was meant to be permanent. Now think about the Kola super deep borehole in Russia. The Soviets drilled for over 20 years, punched more than 12 kilometers straight down, then abruptly stopped. The official reason was that the heat got too high. The rumor that never died was that they heard something. We have pulled more than 1 trillion barrels of oil out from under the crust, and the ground answers back. Sinkholes, earthquakes in places that never had them. The third line said the depths were sealed for a reason. We keep proving we don't believe it. And this is the one that genuinely shouldn't be possible. The fourth line is about the heavens, and the tablet gets oddly specific. The sky isn't empty, it says. It's occupied. There's a position out there that belongs to the Watchers, and humans were never invited. The strange part is the math. There's a Sumerian star text in the British Museum that lists a set of coordinates, and when you actually run the numbers, they point to a spot about 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. That exact spot has a name today. We call it the L1 Lagrange point, a gravitational sweet spot we didn't even have the mathematics to calculate until the 1700s. So how does a 4,000-year-old tablet point straight at it? And this is the part that gets uncomfortable. In 2015, NASA parked a satellite at L1 staring back at Earth. A few years later, the James Webb Telescope went out to the matching point on the far side, staring into deep space. Two machines, sitting on the exact line the ancients called the place of the Watchers. We built the hardware, and we put it in the one spot we were told belonged to someone else. If your skin is doing something weird right now, you're in the right place. This channel goes through the things the museums quietly file away and hope nobody reads. Tap subscribe so these keep showing up. You will get the irony of this in about 2 minutes. The algorithm is part of this story too. Now, the fifth line. The fifth line is the one humans want the most. The breath that doesn't stop. Endless life. In the myths, it belonged to the gods alone, and the tablet says we were built with an expiration date on purpose, written into the design. The oldest story humanity ever wrote down, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is about exactly this. A king watches his closest friend die, refuses to accept it, and travels to the edge of the world to find the secret of living forever. He actually finds it, a plant at the bottom of the sea. Then he falls asleep and a snake steals it. He goes home with nothing. The oldest story we have carries one brutal message. You were not built to last. So what are we doing right now? Hundreds of labs around the world are working on this exact thing. Reversing aging, freezing the dying, uploading minds onto machines. The one thing the gods supposedly kept for themselves is now a funded industry with investors. The fifth line is wide open too. The sixth line is the quiet one, and it might be the worst. It's the power over the record itself. Who decides what survives, what gets remembered, and what disappears forever? The tablet calls it the most guarded power of all, because whoever controls the record controls what the next civilization is even allowed to know. And here's the detail that turned a lot of skeptics. After the researcher published her translation, the tablet was moved to restricted access. No new photos, no public study. 3 different researchers asked to see it over the next few years, and all 3 were turned away. Her follow-up paper came back unread. She stopped publishing on it completely. Meanwhile, back in 2003, around 15,000 artifacts vanished from the museum in Baghdad in a single night, taken by people who knew exactly where the keys were. The sixth power is about controlling knowledge. And the moment someone finally read this tablet correctly, the knowledge started going dark. Which brings us to the seventh line, the last one, the one the title promised you. In the text, it is called the word that reshapes reality, not normal speech, a command strong enough to rewrite how an entire species thinks, communicates, and decides without anyone noticing it is happening. The most famous example is the moment Enki supposedly speaks a single phrase and shatters human language, so that no 2 groups can understand each other anymore. The Bible kept the same story. You know it as the Tower of Babel. One species, one language, building toward the sky, until a power from above scrambles their ability to coordinate and they scatter across the earth. A God reaching down and rewriting how billions of minds take in information. Now look at the screen in your hand. 5 billion people now have what they see, what they believe, and what they never find out, all decided for them by an algorithm. And we just built machines that generate words no human can tell apart from a real person. The seventh power, the word that reshapes reality, is not waiting somewhere in the future. It is already running. And it is the thing that delivered this exact video to you. That is why the title says the last one has already begun. You are not watching a story about it. You are sitting inside it. So that's seven. Seven powers that were supposed to belong only to the gods, and seven lines we've crossed one by one, in the exact order this tablet listed them. But there's one detail the researcher noticed and never explained. The tablet has room for 8 lines. 7 are filled. The 8th is blank, not broken, not worn away by time, blank. The scribe pressed 7 verdicts into the clay 4,000 years ago, and then left the last line empty, like a space waiting to be filled in later. 7 lines tell you what we were never meant to take. The 8th line, the one nobody wrote, might be the one that names who finally gets to keep it all. And it's still empty. So the only question left is who gets to write line 8. If you want to see what else is sitting in those climate-controlled drawers, the things that get a boring label slapped on them and quietly forgotten, subscribe. We're only just getting to the good ones.